Discover the sinister secrets of the Brock Hotel. A cursed haunting revealed after dark. Sarah felt the chill creep into her bones as she stepped through the heavy doors of the Brock Hotel. The lobby, drenched in the sickly yellow of flickering lights, felt like stepping into a graveyard where whispers of the past lingered in the air. She heard the stories the locals warned that the shadows could swallow you whole. With a deep breath, she shook off the unease and set about her duties, her mind on Lily waiting for her just outside. But it wasn't long before the atmosphere thickened. Strange noises slithered through the corridors, a mix of laughter and cries that seemed to rise from the very walls. She could have sworn she saw figures darting from the corners of her vision, silhouettes that dissolved before she could recognize them. The hairs on the back of her neck prickled. Just exhaustion, she thought, pressing her palms against the cold front desk. As the night deepened, a blackout swallowed the hotel whole. Silence engulfed her like a vice. The darkness felt alive, pulsing with an eerie energy that wrapped itself around Sarah. Panic surged in her chest. She spun around, her heart pounding. Lily had been playing in the lobby just moments ago. "Lily," she called, her voice slicing through the nothingness. No answer. Her body propelled her into the dimly lit hallway, searching, gasping for her daughter's name. Shadows stretched and morphed around her, making the familiar feel foreign. Each creak of the floorboards echoed like a taunt, amplifying her fear. Doors lined the hall like tombstones, whispering their secrets. Which one held her child? Wiping her clammy hands on her jeans didn't help. "Lily, where are you?" The only response was a cold gust of air that seemed to groan back at her. Before she could spiral into dread, she stumbled upon a door slightly ajar. Her feet shuffled closer, heart racing more with each step. Inside, remnants of a hidden room unfurled, a collection of faded photographs and yellowing clippings plastered the walls. Missing persons read some of them, all linked to the Brock Hotel. A sickening realization gnawed at her. This hotel was no ordinary place, it was a trap. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The whispering intensified, swirling around her like fog. It became a haunting melody, one she recognized as Lily's voice, distant yet painfully sweet. "Mommy," the call pierced through her fear, igniting a fire of hope, even as dread clenched tighter around her heart. Time slipped like sand between her fingers as she rushed through the deserted halls, summoning all her strength to silence the shadows that threatened to consume her. Her pulse echoed in her ears. A figure flickered in the corner of her eye. No, just darkness playing tricks. But was it? She felt the weight of unseen eyes judging, waiting. The thought twisted her insides. "Lily," she cried again, desperation bleeding into her voice. Panic began to bubble as she pushed forward and suddenly halted. Ahead stood an open door, its threshold blacker than the void surrounding her. What lay beyond? Would it take her child further into its heart? The unanswerable questions twisted in her mind as she stepped closer. Would the lurking shadows offer protection or doom? Would Lily be found, or lost forever in the cursed embrace of the Brock Hotel? Only time would tell, and the clock was ticking with haunting urgency. The air grew colder, settling in Sarah's lungs like ice as she stood before the yawning darkness of the open door. The shadows seemed to swirl and beckon, whispering promises of secrets and lost souls. She hesitated, her body instinctively recoiling from the void. "Lily." Her voice trembled, emerging more like a frightened whisper than a commanding shout, echoing back at her tauntingly. Every instinct screamed for her to retreat, to run back into the thin safety of the lobby's dim light. But Lily's voice continued to pierce through the gathering shadows, a siren call that pushed her forward. The door creaked as she stepped into the abyss, swallowed by the night and trembling at the unknown. Inside, the air was thick with stale scents, something sour mingling with the faint sweetness of decay. Bare walls held the weight of memories long forgotten. Flickering candles behind her cast murky shadows that danced around her like malevolent spirits. Each step deeper into the room felt deliberate, as if the hotel itself conspired to draw her in. The darkness thickened with each heartbeat, the light retreating. "Mommy, help me," the voice shimmered again, more desperate this time. It pulled at her heartstrings, each syllable echoing a child's fear. Sarah's throat tightened, a knot of dread and determination twisting within. "Sweetie, I'm coming," she yelled, straining for her daughter's location in the suffocating blackness. In the far corner of the room, a figure flickered before her. Barely more than a shadow against a less profound darkness. It was gone before she could blink. A chill raced down her spine. Goosebumps erupted across her skin, her breath hitching. Was it just her imagination? Had the Brock Hotel conjured yet another trick from the shadows? "Help me," the voice, once sweet, now carried a raw edge, as if her daughter's terror seeped through the walls. "Mommy, please, I'm scared." A sense of urgency fired through Sarah. All hesitation vanished. She moved deeper into the room, her hands brushing against the wall, searching for some clue, some connection to her child. Her fingers grazed something cold and metallic, a doorknob, hidden behind a drape of ragged fabric. With a ferocious pull, she yanked it open, revealing a cramped space cloaked in darkness. The twisting instinct within her warned of imminent danger, yet her heart flooded with relentless hope. "Lily, are you in there?" No answer came, only silence swelling between them, suffocating and relentless. Her anxiety tiptoed the line of madness as she stood teetering on the threshold, waiting for something to emerge. But what if nothing ever did? The silence morphed, and she swore she heard low whispers echoing her thoughts, taunting her fears. As she took a step closer, the air shifted. Warmth ebbed away from her, replaced by a chilling dread that wrapped around her throat. It felt like hands invisible, yet firm, gripping her tighter. The walls began to pulse, alive with some grotesque sentience. Shadows stretched, intertwining with her terrified mind. Then she caught a glimpse of movement behind her, a fleeting lump of gray in the corner of her eye. Panic poured into her legs, forcing her to swing around. What was lurking there? She was not alone. The very walls whispered their cruel secrets, promising that she would soon join the ranks of the missing. "Lily," she cried out, the name barely escaping her lips before a chilling laughter erupted around her, reverberating through the gloom, mocking her every fear. As the last flicker of light extinguished, enveloping Sarah in total darkness, she felt a swirling wind billow around her, urging her back to the entry she had just come from. But now two choices lay ahead: face the encroaching terror or retreat into mystery. Would she lose herself further in this labyrinth of horror? The silence wrapped tightly around her, breathing within the room. In the distance, something stirred, and she knew it was not far from finding her, an ominous presence eager to reveal whatever lay hidden in the depths of the hotel. What other secrets did the Brock Hotel hold? And would she uncover them before it was too late? The darkness felt alive, heavy with secrets that clawed at Sarah's mind. It was a pressure so profound that it seemed to whisper directly to her soul. The laughter hung in the air, thickening like fog, blurring reality as dread seeped deeper into her bones. "Mommy." The voice again, but this time it was warped, echoing as if it were coming from a long hallway, far away. Panic roared inside her, fueled by the sense that time was trickling away. Sarah's heart hammered against her ribs, each thud sending shocks of adrenaline coursing through her. Taking a deep breath, she forced her feet to move, crossing the threshold into the cramped space behind the door. It was cramped and oppressive, walls closing in like an impending storm. The faint smell of mildew clung to her as she edged further inside. Her fingers brushed against a cold surface, something wooden, worn down by years of neglect or despair. "Lily." Her voice, stronger this time, cut through the silence like a knife, but it felt barely enough to pierce the weight hanging in the air. The chilling wind swirled again, and a sudden feeling of vulnerability washed over her. It dragged memories from the depths, images of happy moments at the park, Lily's laughter chasing away worries. But now, all she felt was dread and fear. Out of nowhere, the whispers picked up again, swirling around her, piggybacking on the currents of the air. "Leave, while you can." One voice rolled into another, layering over one another until it became a cacophony of terror that spun around her like a cyclone. The cold gripped her tighter, and she shivered, fighting the urge to flee. Instead, she focused on the heart of the darkness, where the whispers converged. I have to find her. I will find her, she muttered, more to herself than anything. She had to believe that fire flickering within her was enough to combat the shadow encroaching on her sanity. Sarah stepped cautiously, her heartbeat echoing like thunder in her ears. Each footfall dared to provoke the shadows. The overhead lights flickered, dancing erratically, drawing her attention as they illuminated the walls dotted with strange marking scratches that looked like claw marks. Desperate attempts to claw free from whatever held them here, but a shadow shifted behind her, rapid and angular, and she spun around, heart racing anew. There, underneath a pile of ash, a glimmer caught her eye, small, metallic. She knelt down, fingers trembling as she swiped away the debris, revealing a locket. Opening it, her breath caught. A faded picture of a girl, similar to Lily, stared back at her. The same blonde curls framed a face frozen in a moment of joy, now haunted by time. No, no, Sarah whispered in horror, clamping the locket shut, realizing whatever had happened in this room, it had claimed another child. But before she could rise, a cold hand gripped her shoulder, icy fingers digging into her flesh. Join us, the voice hissed. Sarah felt ice creeping up her spine as she turned, eyes wide with terror, but there was nothing. Only shadows. Shadows that flickered with almost human-like shapes, consuming the space around her. Panic surged as she lunged forward only to trip over something unseen, tumbling into inky blackness. As she hit the floor, the candlelight sputtered momentarily, and for a split second, a figure materialized beside her, a pale, skeletal form with hollow eyes wide open in agony. Help me. It choked, the voice not that of her daughter, but something infinitely older and far more dreadful. No. With a frantic push, she scrambled away, fueled by primal fear, her hands clawing at the ground, desperate to flee. The room rumbled around her, the walls closing in with a hungry groan. But one thought reverberated in her mind: she had to find Lily. As the laughter returned, roaring triumphantly around her, Sarah charged back towards the door. Would escaping this room lead her to her daughter? Or would the hotel's vile secrets consume her, just as they had consumed the souls before? The swirling shadows conspired to keep her trapped. Would she break free before it was too late? Fingers trembling, Sarah clawed at the walls, desperate for something, anything to grip onto. The laughter swelled, echoing in a maddening symphony. Mommy! The voice rang again, insistent and closer, cutting through her panic like a knife. She scrambled to her feet and lunged toward the door. Her heart was a wild beast, pounding against her ribcage. Every escape felt like it was just out of reach. The shadows flared around her, twisting and mocking, feeding on her fear. She felt them tugging at her clothes, pulling her back toward the darkness of the room. No, I will find you, Lily, she yelled, steeling herself against the cold fingers of despair that sought to drown her spirit. With every ounce of strength pooled in her, she threw herself against the door, pressing against the barrier as if it were the only thing standing between her and the abyss. The door creaked ominously as she pushed, feeling the wood resist, but gradually, slowly, it began to give way. Just as the heavy wood cracked open a sliver of light, a hand shot out from the shadows and wrapped around her ankle. It yanked her back, slamming her against the ground. Her breath hitched as she clawed against the floor, pulling with a primal desperation. The murmur of ghostly voices rose to a frenetic crescendo, threatening to swallow her whole. Join us, no, no, each word was a prayer against the encroaching horror. She had to get out. She had to reach Lily. Summoning every ounce of willpower, she rolled to the side and kicked out with her foot, connecting with whatever darkness had ensnared her. The pressure released momentarily, and she scrambled back toward the door, courage igniting a flame in her chest. The door creaked open wider, spilling a flood of light that pierced through the curtain of shadows. For a fleeting moment, the whispers quieted, replaced by the urgent sound of her daughter's voice, faint but clear, reverberating in the air. Mommy, help me. Sarah surged forward into the hall, her body ignited by adrenaline. She stumbled out, almost losing her balance on the dust-covered floor. The hotel loomed around her, oppressive and eerie, each corridor branching into unfathomable darkness. But she couldn't stop. She was a mother on a mission. Lily, I'm coming. The sound of her own voice felt foreign, bouncing back from the walls, amplifying her urgency. The stuffy, foul air filled her lungs with dread, but she pushed forward, desperate to find her daughter. The corridor twisted unnaturally, the wallpaper peeling like the skin of some grotesque creature. Shadows danced around every corner, their movements slight yet disquieting. Sarah's heart raced as she spotted a flicker of a light in the distance, a glimmer of hope. As she hurried towards it, the laughter returned. Dark and twisted, it echoed from deep within the walls. Freezing her in her tracks, it was as if the very structure of the hotel was alive, threatening to consume her. She felt more than heard a rustling behind her, a presence drawing close, feeding on her dread. Suddenly, an icy breath brushed against her neck. Panic struck as a chilling whisper rang in her ear. "You cannot save her, she is already ours." The sickening sensation of despair crashed over her, but she fought against it. "Focus, Sarah. You have to find Lily." Steeling herself, she charged toward the light, jaw clenched, a mantra building in her mind. "I will find her." Each step echoed ominously, the laughter swelling a chilling lullaby that promised her daughter was somewhere near. And then it hit her. The laughter seemed to morph, intertwining with a sound that made her blood run cold, a child's giggle. She sprinted faster, agony gnawing at her limbs, breath coming in ragged gasps. "Lily!" But as she neared the light, it suddenly flickered, extinguishing into deep darkness again. The clamoring laughter morphed into a horrifying chorus of children's voices. The playful echoes bounced off the walls, deafening, concealing the cries of urgency for help. "Where are you?" she screamed, fear rippling through her, heart hammering mercilessly in her chest. Clarity ripped through the chaos. This hotel held unfathomable secrets that threatened not only her life, but her daughter's as well. Silence fell suddenly, suffocating, but also bringing an eerie calm. A single thud reverberated in the depths of the darkness, followed by a whisper, "Come play." In that haunting moment, a deep realization washed over Sarah. She was not alone. But would she unearth the truth, or would it take her to? Time seemed to stretch infinitely as the shadows conspired, pulling her closer to a fate she wasn't ready to face. In the profound quiet, hope flickered and faded. Would it return, or would the hotel's grasp consume her completely? With her heart racing in her chest, Sarah stood motionless, the darkness swirling around her like a living entity, pulsing and breathing with a sickly life of its own. The echoes of children's laughter faded into an unsettling silence that pressed against her ears. What had once felt like playful joy now transformed into a low, ominous hum that throbbed in rhythm with her heartbeat. "Come play." The whisper lingered in the air, curling around her like smoke, enticing yet sinister, and a wave of nausea washed over her. She took a trembling step back, but even that small movement felt like a betrayal of her instincts. Behind her, the shadows shifted, coiling like serpents, and before she could react, a chorus of giggles erupted from the dark. It was a menacing cacophony that layered over one another, their mocking tones reverberating off the walls. "Play with us. Join us." The voices intertwined, becoming a single entity that sought to swallow her whole. Sarah clenched her fists, teeth gritted, heart pounding like a war drum. She had to push through. She had to find Lily. With renewed determination, she launched herself down the flickering corridor, praying that the light of hope would lead her to her daughter. The oppressive air thickened with despair, but the image of Lily laughing, bright-eyed and alive, propelled her forward. Fingers brushed against her shoulder, icy and sharp. She stifled a scream, pivoting on her heel to face the encroaching dark. Nothing, just the stillness responding to her fear. But something was there. She could feel it, a weight that loomed, lurking just outside her view, feeding off her terror. "Get away from me," she shouted, her voice cutting through the heavy silence. But the response was merely a muffled chuckle, the sound wrapping around her like chains. The shadows lurked closer, a tide that threatened to wash over her, and she sprinted faster, driven by a primal need to survive. That up ahead, another corner beckoned with a sliver of light, more insistent, more real. The laughter morphed into muffled cries, sharper now, like tiny bells ringing amidst the darkness. "Mommy, please." The genuine fear in Lily's voice broke through the veil of madness. Hold on, baby. I'm coming. She charged ahead, heart soaring and sinking at the same time. Every corner she turned pulled her deeper into the nightmare, each step forward laced with dread. The corridors twisted, morphing into a labyrinth of despair, shadows playfully darting away from her reach. Each moment felt ageless, warped in the hotel's sinister embrace. Finally, she reached the end of the hall. There it was, a door bathed in light, an open invitation amid the horrors. But as she approached, it swung shut, the sound echoing like a thunderclap against the walls. Panic clawed at her throat. With every ounce of courage, she flung herself against it. "Lily, please." She pounded the door with both fists, reckless. The thudding echoed like a heartbeat, a terrible reminder of the ticking time. The shadows around her pulsed with life, whispering promises of despair, tempting her to join them in the darkness. With a surge of anger, she screamed, "I want to leave you. I will not lose you." Her words shattered the eerie calm, slicing through the thick air. The door creaked open slightly, just enough to reveal a dimly lit room beyond. A figure flickered within, cloaked in shadows, and the giggle pierced the stillness, fragile, yet terrifying. Her breath caught. Was it Lily? "Mommy," the voice pulled at her heart, threads of innocence woven into the fabric of the madness. Without hesitation, Sarah thrust her body forward, through the door, stepping into the light. But what awaited her inside? The shadows clutched at her heels, whispering secrets tangled in malevolence. And then she found herself standing before a scene that froze her blood. A circle of children, their faces obscured, stood around something or someone. As she stepped further, the flickering light revealed what lay in the center. She gasped, the horror exploding in her mind. Lily, the name fell from her lips. A desperate plea, but the children turned, their faces twisted with glee and malice. One voice rose above the others, chilling her to the bone. "You're too late." The reality of her situation crashed over her as the shadows tightened their grip, and in that instant, Sarah realized she was no longer just searching for her daughter. She was part of something far darker than she could comprehend. As they beckoned her closer, her heart raced with crushing dread. What would she choose? Could she fight through the night? Or would she too become a part of the sinister play? In that moment of truth, she knew one unnerving fact: there was no way out now. Only deeper into the abyss of the Brock Hotel, where secrets lay waiting to be uncovered. Would she escape, or become just another whisper in the darkness? As Sarah's gaze locked onto the twisted smiles of the children, her legs felt like lead, unable to move, paralyzed by a terror that constricted her throat. The echoes of their sinister laughter twisted inside her head, clawing at her sanity. "What have you done?" she croaked, stepping closer against her better judgment. She needed to know. Her child was at the center of this grotesque display. But as the light flickered ominously, casting shadows that seemed to dance with glee, the figure in the center remained obscured. Should she dare approach? "Join us," the children sang in unison, their voices cross-hatched, the melody sweet, yet dripping with malice. They gestured towards the center of the circle, their frail arms drawing Sarah nearer, as if they had no intentions of letting her leave. "Stop," she shouted, her voice breaking, but they only giggled, each ringing laugh tearing at her composure. She forced herself forward, driven by a mix of desperation and stubborn bravery. In the very heart of that malevolent assembly lay a doll, a tattered remnant of childhood innocence. But something was very wrong. It had 2 buttons for eyes, one of which was cracked, and its lips were painted in a permanent grin that seemed to taunt her, hinting at unspeakable secrets intertwined with her daughter's fate. "Is that?" Sarah whispered, her voice trembling. "Lily?" A sudden chill rushed through the air. The children tilted their heads in unison, their expressions shifting from joyous playfulness to a dark awareness that left her feeling exposed and vulnerable. One child stepped forward, dirt-stained hands reaching out towards her, and Sarah's breath caught. "Come play with us, Mommy. We're all friends here." The child sang sweetly, eyes gleaming with an unsettling light. "I want Lily," Sarah barked, the words shaking through her. "Where's my daughter?" Another child chimed in, a grin that made her skin crawl. "Lily is part of the game now. She plays with us forever." "Forever?" Panic surged through her veins like fire. "No, you can't do this." But their eyes glinted with dark hope, as if they found sheer joy in her horror. The shadows thickened around them, swallowing the flickering light that illuminated their ghastly scene. She had ventured so far into this nightmarish place, yet the more she learned, the more she realized the depths of despair stretched far beyond her comprehension. "Stop! Let her go!" she bellowed, lunging toward the doll, as if it held the key to her daughter's freedom. But the moment her fingers brushed against the worn fabric, a shriek erupted from the children. Their twisted visages contorted further, revealing fangs, and their laughter morphed into a chilling wail that echoed off the walls. "Once you touch it, you're part of the game," a child screeched, eyes glowing like embers in the dark. Fear twisted Sarah's gut. The shadows wrapped around her like claws, pulling her deeper into their black abyss. The doll vibrated with energy, sending ripples of dread through her very being. "No, I am not one of you." With a surge of determination, Sarah ripped the doll from the floor, its fabric tearing as she pulled it close. A horrible silence fell over the room, broken only by the low rumble of the shadowy whispers that filled the air. Then, like a coiled spring, the children lunged at her, their shrieks echoing in an evil harmony. Sarah knew she had a choice. The doll felt like a portal to something far worse, yet holding on to it could mean finding Lily. She was trapped between two nightmarish realities. Suddenly, the walls of the dark room rippled, revealing fleeting images of her daughter, laughter mixing with intermittent screams that gripped her heart. "Lily!" The name burst from her lips in anguish as she faced the encroaching terror. But then, from behind her, came a whisper so soft it almost melted into the darkness. "Mommy, help me!" Sarah's heart shattered. Her body moved before her mind could catch up. In that moment, she had made her choice. As the shadows clawed at her, she surged forward to the children, the doll clutched tightly under her arm, prepared to face whatever evil lay ahead for a chance to reclaim her daughter. But what new horrors awaited her as the darkness closed in? The wallpaper dripped like old blood, peeling away from the walls as if the very bones of the building were crying out. Sarah stumbled into the room, her heart racing, the doll cradled to her chest. The air felt too thick to breathe, a suffocating weight pressing down, threatening to collapse her under the sheer magnitude of horrors lurking behind every corner. "Lily?" she called, her voice cracking, echoing into the oppressive silence. It swallowed her words, and she felt the dread coil tighter within her. Shadows crept along the walls, twisting, writhing, eager for flesh, eager to drag her deeper into despair. "Mommy!" The voice came again, tender but laced with implied danger. It sent a chill rippling through her. Fear clawed at her throat, but she pressed on, guided by the faint glimmer of hope that this ghastly doll could somehow lead her to her little girl. The room was filled with remnants of past lives, tattered toys with hollow eyes, cracked porcelain dolls frozen in twisted grins, and broken furniture that leaned in like silent witnesses to the unspeakable. Each step she took felt like a plunge into a deeper nightmare, where logic slipped away, replaced by the raw, pulsating beat of terror. "Make it stop!" A chorus of whispers surged from the corners, drowning her in a cacophony of muffled cries and laughter. "You came to play. You must stay." "No, I won tea," Sarah shouted, the defiance barely brimming above terror. She gripped the doll tightly, its fabric digging into her flesh, as if it wanted to warn her, but warned her of what? The glares of the children bore down. Their eyes glimmered with a monstrous curiosity, waiting for her next move, eager to consume her quality of life, perhaps even her very soul. Suddenly, she noticed an odd shimmering in the air, a distortion that felt almost tangible. It twisted across the room like a slithering snake, forming pathways of shadows that walked their own lines. It was then she saw a figure appeared, faint and ghostly, standing in the corner. "Lily?" She took a trembling step forward. The figure morphed, becoming more defined, a flicker of sweet innocence amid the escalating horror. As she drew closer, she felt that familiar warmth radiating off the shape, but the doll pulsed erratically in her grip, and the children's laughter crescendoed into a cruel howling. "You cannot have her!" they screeched, an unholy choir. They pressed closer, shadows melding with their forms, a mass of malice aimed directly at her. "Leave her alone," Sarah thundered, her grip tight around the doll. "This ends now." The moment hung thick in the air, heavy and tense, like the electric charge before a lightning strike. And then, the doll screamed. It tore through the cacophony with a piercing wail that stung her ears and froze the children in their tracks. The air around them quaked, sending a ripple through the shadows. For a fraction of a second, everything felt still, as if the world held its breath to eye in that instant. Sarah saw Lily's face. Panic mingled with despair, trapped inside that twisted game. "Mommy, please." Her voice shattered the stillness, the urgency pure and real. With a cry of resolve, Sarah lunged, plunging into the sinister mass of shadows. She had to reach her daughter, but the darkness fought back, clawing at her legs, dragging her deeper. The moment felt eternal, the world around her dissolving into an endless void. As Sarah neared the figure of her little girl, the boys and girls pulled her back, laughter transforming into shrieks of rage. Then everything exploded, a blinding flash of light, followed by deafening silence. Sarah stumbled, her heart thundering in her chest. She found herself standing still, surrounded by a storm of dark shadows. The doll lay at her feet, unnervingly still. Was it over? But then a new sound emerged, quiet at first, Lily's laughter, gentle and free. It swirled around her. "Mommy, where are you?" It grew louder, echoing fiercely, pulling her back. Every instinct screamed at Sarah to flee, yet the call of her daughter was unwavering, a tether she couldn't resist. Beyond the shadows, she sensed the truth. The final revelation awaited her. A decision loomed ahead. Would she dare confront whatever lay in the depths, or would she succumb to the horror structure that gagged her heart? Sarah took a deep breath, the air thick with a balance of dread and longing. For Lily, she had to choose. But was she prepared for what lurked in the dark behind the whispers? Sarah felt a tremor run through her body as she considered the way forward. Each passing moment chipped away at her strength, as the shadows whispered secrets that made her skin crawl. Determination rose in her chest, battling the fear that wound tight around her heart. "Lily needs me," she reminded herself, though it felt flimsy against the darkness. The echo of Lily's laughter twisted and warped in the air, intertwining with the mocking cries of the other children. It was a chorus of innocence and malice, a haunting song weaving together her dread and her love. "Mommy, please," a soft plea floated through the chaos, guiding her further into the nightmare. Gritting her teeth, Sarah stepped closer to the writhing gloom. She hugged the doll tighter, as if it were a shield against the malevolence that clutched at her. With each footfall, the laughter bloomed into twisted shrieks, mocking her attempts to approach her daughter. "Turn back! Turn back!" the shadows chanted. Suddenly, a hand reached out from the darkness, fingers cold and ghostly. A sickening dread crashed over her as she felt the chill bite into her ankle. "You're not welcome here," it hissed, yanking her closer, and she fell to her knees, clawing at the floor, but the shadows gripped her viciously. I have to find her," she gasped, the weight of unseen hands threatening to pull her under completely. The doll vibrated violently in her grasp, bringing with it a flood of memories, the joy of Lily's first steps, the laughter they shared in sunlight, each moment precious and heart-wrenching. "I can't lose her." With renewed conviction, she tore her grip free from the shadow's clutch and thrust the doll outward. "Let us go. You have no power over us." The room shuddered, the air thickening as if held back by a great force. For a heartbeat, the laughter fell silent, the shadows recoiling momentarily like a startled beast. Then, just as abruptly, a deafening roar erupted, drowning her in a swell of rage as the children converged on her with sharpened teeth and hollow eyes. "Mommy, help!" The plea came again, and she felt the very essence of Lily behind it. If she could reach her, if she could just hold her, she believed they might escape this torment together. "You don't want her," Sarah screamed, pushing through the deepening darkness. For one terrifying moment, she questioned her own mind. What if this was a trick? What if Lily was not even here? The ominous thoughts danced at the edges of her sanity, but love drove her forward. Each step into the throng of shadows felt like a war, every inch bought with weakness. The doll began to heat in her hands, radiating a pulsing energy that felt like a heartbeat. "Lily," she cried, desperation clawing at her throat, tears stinging her eyes. "I'm coming." And then, amidst the chaos, the laughter erupted once more, but this time it twisted into something grotesque. "You shouldn't have come here." Stay with us. Stay forever. The last warning struck like a thunderbolt. The shadows lunged, and the doll vibrated violently, casting brilliant light that cut through the darkness. Sarah's heart felt as if it would burst. Somehow, she had to break free. Fingers brushed against hers, cold, small, familiar. Mommy! The world exploded into chaos, light glittering and shadows clawing back. Sarah lunged forward, unyielding. If she could grab hold, if she could just, but all at once, the overwhelming force yanked her back, and the room folded in on itself, darkness swallowing her scream. What felt like hours later, Sarah found herself lying on a cold, unyielding floor, heart pounding like a distant drum. The silence was oppressive, but then a whisper coaxed her, soft and undeniable. Help me, Mommy. In the stillness, Sarah felt dread pool in the pit of her stomach. Where was she? Where was Lily? As she sat up, the shadows danced at the edges of her vision, waiting for her to slip. They wouldn't let her go that easily, and the question loomed. What new horror would she face to save her child? The air was thick with stillness, as if the world held its breath, waiting. Sarah's heart raced, echoing in her ears like an unanswered prayer. She pushed herself up, her palms pressed against the cold floor, trembling. A distant noise, a soft sobbing, cut through the silence. It was fragile, like a thread poised to snap. Lily, she whispered, hope flickering like a candle flame. The shadows pulsated around her, eager to extinguish it. She strained to listen, straining against the weight of dark whispers. They promised safety, warmth, a life free from fear, but she would not succumb. Mommy, the voice was clearer now, more desperate, but it was accompanied by the unmistakable sound of laughter, a cruel, echoing taunt that sent shivers coursing down her spine. Where are you? Sarah cried, panic threading through her tone. She rose to her feet unsteadily, her body quaking with the residual chills of the unseen hands that had gripped her moments before. The room was shrouded in darkness, walls that seemingly stretched into infinity. She took a deep breath, calling on the power left within her. I'm coming, Lily. Just hold on. The sound of footsteps echoed, but they were not hers. Somewhere ahead, the darkness shifted, and shadowy forms danced at the edges of her sight. They were children, ghastly, gaunt figures with hollow eyes that glimmered with the echoes of their former selves. They were waiting. Join us, they chanted softly, their voices eerily melodic, yet laced with malice. Forever everything, and Sarah screamed no. She stumbled backward, clutching the doll tighter. It was still warm, pulsating in her grasp, like a heartbeat encouraging her to fight. But was it too late? Was the doll a guardian, or an anchor to this foul realm? Stay, Mommy. Stay. The voice was dark at its core, enticing, deceptive. Never. Sarah shouted defiantly, surging forward, her legs fueled by sheer desperation. Each step felt like treading through thick mud, the tendrils of shadow reaching out for her, coaxing her, promising a reprieve from her pain. You don't want her. You don't want me. At that, the shadows writhed violently, baying for her submission. The laughter cracked open like thunder, surging through the room. It mixed with the sobs, forming a cacophony that threatened to drown her in despair. Help me, Mommy. The sob pierced through the noise, clear and pure. This time, it was a beacon, slicing through the fog of despair. A flicker of light appeared in the distance, a soft glow flickering in the void as if it sensed her rage. With every ounce of strength, Sarah sprinted toward it, the doll heating wildly in her hands as it pulsed brighter, drawing her ever closer to that glimmer of hope. Just as she reached it, shadows amassed, forming a wall, pulsating in sync with her heartbeat. The voices rose in a furious crescendo, drowning out the soft call of her daughter. They converged, the children's forms merging into an impossible mass, teeth bared, eyes crazed. Join us. Embrace the darkness. No, Sarah screamed, feeling the sheer weight of their pull, her resolve hardening. The warmth of the doll radiated into her chest, a fierce glow igniting from within. I want to abandon my child. In that moment, she felt power course through her, fierce and undeniable. She surged forth, pushing against the shadows with all her might. But just before she could break through, a cold hand clasped around her wrist, and everything came crashing down. Your memories are ours, Sarah, a chilling voice whispered, echoing her name with a hunger that paralyzed her. And then it came. Darkness swallowed her whole, leaving behind only the lingering echo of Lily's fading plea. What price would she have to pay to recover her daughter? And what truths waited to be uncovered within the abyss? As the air thickened around Sarah, drowning her in shadows that clung with icy fingers, she felt a surge of fury rise within her. "You will not take my memories," she roared, her voice breaking through the despair like a beacon splintering the dark. The shadows hissed in response, a chorus of mockery whispering promises of despair. Then it hit her. She wasn't just fighting for her daughter. She was fighting for herself, for every moment of joy that the Brock Hotel had tried to steal. With each desperate beat of her heart, Sarah envisioned every laugh, every smile from Lily. Her daughter's radiant spirit ignited a fire deep in her soul. The doll pulsed violently in her grip, and she began to push back. The shadows writhed, screeching as the warmth radiated from her heart, challenging the chilling grasp that threatened to consume her. "I am Lily's mother," she shouted, drawing strength from the love that once filled their days. "And I will fight until my last breath." With renewed determination, Sarah surged forward through the shifting mass, her instincts screaming to reach the faint glow at the end of the endless darkness. The shadows twisted, clawing at her, desperate to weave her back into their nightmarish fold. White-hot energy erupted around her as she pressed on, undeterred. "Help me, Mommy!" The cry carried through the hall, clearer this time, pure and urgent. Sarah stumbled toward the sound, her vision narrowing. Through the darkness, she finally saw a figure emerge, surrounded by the flickering light that spilled from the other side. A fragile light filled with the warmth of hope. The semblance of Lily stood there, glowing ethereally, trapped in the arms of shadowy figures that clawed at her, faces devoid of innocence, eyes gleaming with malice. "Lily!" Sarah shouted, forcing every ounce of her being forward, heart racing, soul ignited with protective wrath. If she could just reach her, just touch her. Their bond thrummed with raw power, a magical tether that neither the hotel nor its horrific inhabitants could sever. "Mommy!" Lily echoed again, closer, the warmth of their connection pulling at the strands of darkness that held her prisoner. Fueled by relentless love, Sarah flung the doll toward her daughter, watching it soar like a comet against the night. Light exploded around Lily as the fabric of reality shimmered. Shadows screeched in fury, their hands retreating, faltering against the force of their connection. "Lily, grab it," Sarah urged, tears streaming down her face in a mixture of fear and hope. That Lily's tiny hand reached out and grasped the doll just as it landed in her palms. The doll ignited, enveloping Lily in an aura so bright it pushed back the darkness like the dawn's first light, scattering the night away. The hotel trembled as the shadows writhed in agony, howling against the power that surged from the bond of love. "Together!" Lily yelled, her voice slicing through the chaos, like a warrior standing her ground. "We can defeat them." Sarah sprinted toward her daughter, melding their energies together, amplifying the glow that radiated from their connection. The shadows hissed and shrieked as the light swelled, illuminating the room in a fierce brilliance. With a final roar of defiance, Sarah and Lily raised their arms, intertwining their fingers, unleashing a wave of energy that fractured the air like a thunderclap. The walls of the hotel shuddered, the floor quaking beneath them as beams of light streamed outward, driving the shadows back to the dark corners from whence they came. The walls trembled, cracks spidered along the floor, and fissures opened beneath the nightmare's foundation, dispersing the ghoulish laughter that had pervaded the hotel for too long. In an instant, there was silence. The oppressive weight of fear dissipated, replaced by a calm that washed over them like a soft breeze. Sarah pulled her daughter into an embrace. Relief flooded her senses. The warmth of their love wrapped around them, a cocoon against the memories of horror. "You did it, Mommy," Lily chimed, her eyes sparkling with joy and innocence, the shadows retreating into oblivion. With a weary but radiant smile, Sarah whispered, "We did it, together." Hand in hand, they walked toward the glowing lighted doorway that led out of the shadows of the Brock Hotel. Stepping out, they felt the night air, electrifying and fresh. The curse of the hotel was broken. In the distance, they could hear the peaceful hum of nightboards and the rustling leaves, drawing them back to the world outside. into the warmth of a hopeful dawn. They turned for one last look at the Brock Hotel, now a mere husk of what once was a dark vessel of torment, now resting in silence. With hands still clasped, the two walked away, leaving behind the darkness, forever bound by an unbreakable bond of love and hope. Now, if you want to continue experiencing these exclusive stories, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and support what you love. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. What did you think? And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this electrifying conclusion. Your support makes a huge difference. Let us grow this community together.